agape-licensed spiritual practitioner whose passion is supporting individuals and groups in discovering and living from their highest selves. In her career, she has worked in both nonprofit and for-profit businesses in a wide variety of industries, from telecommunications and space to entertainment to life science to peace advocacy. She is an accomplished speaker and workshop leader and has facilitated thousands of hours of transformational seminars, mostly with troubled teens in specialty schools. She now works as a management consultant, helping organizations navigate major change. Wendy lives in Columbia, Maryland with her sweetheart and life partner Ted, and enjoys being a bonus mom with his 2 young adult children. So help me recognize and bring up Wendy Greene.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a little strange having your world, like your life, encapsulated in those. Introductions are so fascinating, aren't they? It's like, oh wow, that's true, isn't it? That is me. Well, thank you everybody for coming this morning and for the opportunity again for me to be with you today. What appear to be accidents have occurred that have allowed me the blessing of being here, as I understand, as our announcements of Reverend Brian and Kim are off busy. They're getting married. So we send them lots of love and light and support as they formalize what already is. In some ways, a reflection of in the spirit of the topic of the day, which is spiritual healing, spiritual mind treatment. They are now expressing the demonstration of the healing that already occurred. Right? It was already there, it was already done, they're already a committed couple, and now it's evidenced in a particular way in the world. So this is such a rich topic, and so very deep and involved. There's like so much we could explore today in this epic space of spiritual healing. If we could do this for like 10 weeks, and in fact we do in the classes. So if you hear this talk today and are like, man, that's cool, or oh yeah, I forgot that, or I want to explore that more deeply, really, I can't. This is a lifetime of work, what we're going to explore today. This is day in, day out, moment by moment. You talk about peeling the onion. You never get to the middle on this one. There's always more. So I just really want to encourage you, if this speaks to you, calls to you, resonates with you, has you just curious, really keep your eyes open for when Reverend Brian brings that class for spiritual mind treatment to the group, because it is so worth it. And as you wait for that, of course, we have our wonderful Science of Mind textbook. There's a whole part 2, spiritual mind healing, right? And it's probably no accident that my book just kind of cracks open to that section, because those of you who know me, those of you who've heard me speak before, those of you who've maybe spent more than, I don't know, like 32 seconds with me, know that I have an extremely healthy and well-developed capacity for critical thinking. Like my inner critic, it's in shape. It works out, it is well exercised, and it knows how to bring forward another view of things. And a lot of times that other view sounds like, really? Are you sure about that? And so when we explore this idea of spiritual healing, and we live in a world that for millennia was deeply rooted in the understanding of oneness and the understanding of the inexplicable, intrinsic nature and interconnectedness of all life, which is really the topic that we're exploring this entire month, the kinship of our kinship with all of life. That we come from a tradition where that was deeply known, deeply understood, and there were ways of treating and healing physical conditions that now, as we have come from actually a relatively short amount of time in the human experience of adopting what is known as medical science, we look now at these things that for millennia were simply natural in the way the world worked and what we understood. We look at them now, it's kind of weird, kind of outdated, kind of false or fantastical or based in mythology, not really having a solid scientific structure behind them, because we have actually expanded our own capacity and knowledge of the human body, how it works, what it does. And we have done things that our ancestors would have frankly considered miracles. I mean, the polio vaccine at its time was a miracle of modern science. When I had appendicitis and went to the emergency room and was in so much pain and trying so hard, frankly, sorry, too much information, not to throw up from the pain itself, right? That I couldn't even open my eyes as I talked to the doctor, because every ounce of my conscious awareness was at work making its way through the physical experience I was having so I could have any kind of conversation. And she prescribed morphine. Morphine's a miracle. I'm telling you, whole new world, right? Next time she comes in, I'm like, hi. Yeah, we can talk now. Like, I can open my eyes and look at you. And so there are things that, depending upon our point of view, they look like miracles. And because of the way in which our understanding of health and wholeness has evolved, now what we know as spiritual healing or spiritual mind treatment in the context of science of mind is perceived by many either to be a miracle or what my father called that wooga wooga stuff. And yet, it is indeed based in very sound and simple principles that there's no accident our philosophy is known as science of mind, because the whole intent of it, look, I just demonstrated the principle, we'll come back to that. The whole essence of it is you can experiment with it, you can test it, you can repeat it, and you can prove or disprove it, just as you can in medical science or in any other science, the physical sciences, whatever it is that we use in our world today. So the healthy inner skeptic in me, the inner critic, is always challenged on this topic, to be quite frank. And what I love about science of mind is that science of mind as a philosophy does not ask us to choose between medical science and spiritual healing. It recognizes the oneness in everything. And I've heard Ernest Holmes, our founder, quoted as saying, if you believe the pill will help you, take the pill. We are not a teaching that says there is something wrong or bad or inappropriate or an example that you don't really believe if you go to medical science. Or as I've heard Deepak Chopra put it in substance, if I am dealing with a stress-induced condition, I want to go do yoga, I want to be at my acupuncturist, I want to do my spiritual healing. If I'm in a car accident, please take me to an emergency room. Like now, a Western-style ER, please. And we recognize that wholeness and that oneness. But we also know and recognize, and this is where, as Julia was reading in the quotes today, that it is essentially, fundamentally what those quotes are saying is, it is done unto you as you believe. Our thoughts shape our experience, our understanding, and our creation of our lives. So as I walk in the world in a belief that if my genetic history is such that my grandmother had breast cancer, my great-grandmother had breast cancer, my mother has breast cancer, my sister has breast cancer, therefore I am going to have. Stop. What the science of mind tells us is stop. There is nothing in the physical world that is a limit or a block on the power of spiritual principle. The physical world is an effect. The cause, the origin, is within ourselves and our own thinking. Because we are part of, not just part, we are the expression of one mind. One universal mind, one universal consciousness. What's known in the mind over here is also known in the mind over here. And this is one of the reasons that spiritual mind treatment works. Because with spiritual mind treatment, or as we call it, you'll hear it referred to as affirmative prayer as well, I tend toward treatment because for me, and I don't know about some of you, prayer still has a little bit of baggage for me, right? Prayer is still kind of that thing that people do where you have to go to some external body that's better than you are, that's bigger than you are, and oh, by the way, can do things to you, well, on its own sort of whim of opinion, and will sometimes say, well, yes, this prayer that Claire prayed, yeah, I like prayer today. I like Claire today. I grabbed this prayer. But I don't know, Cindy, she cut me off on the freeway the other day. So no, I'm not granting that prayer. No. We understand that is not, we are not dealing with a personality or a giver of gifts or a taker or a causer of pain. We are dealing with a single, integrated, universal principle that is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That is fundamentally neutral. It simply says yes to what we, as individualized expressions of it, put into it to create. So that's a lot of very big words that require a lot of unpacking, which, by the way, we're not going to do all of that today. Take the class. Take the class. And explore that more deeply, because what we know in spiritual mind treatment is one of the fascinating aspects of spiritual mind treatment. Spiritual mind treatment is not about convincing somebody of something. It's not about implanting an idea in someone else. It's not about manipulating somebody else. It is about knowing the truth so fully that we align ourselves with a principle that already exists and allow it to operate in our lives. So spiritual mind treatment is not about making something happen. Spiritual healing is not about making something happen. Spiritual healing is not about me up in front of the room bringing forward some great power and begging it to come forward and heal you. In some traditions, it's about that. In this tradition, it is not. It is about aligning with an existing principle, such as just happened with my glasses, or more appropriately with this book. I can take this book and drop it, and it falls to the ground. Now, did I make the book fall? No. Gravity made the book fall. I simply created the condition in which the law could operate. That's it. And that's what we do in spiritual mind treatment. We simply create within ourselves the condition for the law to operate, the truth to be revealed. That truth being that there is one power, one presence, one infinite beingness in the world that expresses itself as love, as beauty, as health, as wholeness, as abundance. And yet we live in a world where there's a whole lot of evidence that what I just said isn't true. Yes? Yeah. We live in a world where the focus of what people pay attention to is what? As the quote said, and it was so perfect that that was one of the quotes that Julia read, and I want to reread it. We are living in an intelligent universe which responds to our mental states. Now, just pause for a moment and think about your typical mental state. And understand the world is responding to that. And not just you. Now, this is kind of the other funny thing with spiritual mind treatment and spiritual healing, right? It's a little bit like you've taken the red pill in the Matrix, right? Oh, really? It all responds to my thought. Now, in one sense, that's so empowering, right? The universe responds to my thoughts. Yes! And then you look out in the universe and go, ooh, the universe responds to my thoughts. So what am I thinking? The majority of the time, where is my consciousness? What is my awareness? What am I dwelling in? And when we look as a collective, and this is a really important aspect as well, we are not alone, right? There are other individualized expression of infinite life, whether they know that's what they are or not, who are having their thoughts and their experience. In fact, there are billions of us on this planet, and a lot of those individualized expressions are having thoughts of poverty, of disease, of war, of lack, of limitation. And what does our media typically dwell in and reflect back to us the majority of the time, whether it be through so-called factual information known as the news, which can also be called the olds, because is there anything new really being shared on that information, right? So that's coming forward, or in fiction as well, if we look at our movies and games and how much of it is about violence and poverty and just conflict, because that's what drama is, man. Drama is conflict. Take any writing class, you can't have a good drama unless you got some good conflict happening. And so for us, as practitioners of spiritual truth, it comes to us to take the time to consciously focus on peace, to consciously call forward wholeness, to consciously call forward all needs met. When I completed my practitioner training at the Agape International Spiritual Center in Los Angeles, we had a wonderful, beautiful, big graduation ceremony. And there was a minister who gave the charge to the class. Actually, at the time, she was still a practitioner. She's a minister now. And part of her charge to the class, she talked a lot about prayer and about spiritual mind treatment. Because as she explained to us, licensed practitioners, as she put it, are humble because we recognize it's not us. I don't make treatment happen. I don't make the law perform. I don't bring forward healing when I pray with someone. I simply know the truth. That's it. I let go of the book. Like, how hard is that, really? I just let go of the book and allow the law to operate. I get myself out of the way. And so you're humbled in prayer. You're humbled in treatment because you realize it's not me doing the work. It's the law doing the work. It's simply universal principle at play. So practitioners are humble and they're praying. They're individuals who make a commitment to pray, to use these tools to bring forward spiritual mind treatment, to apply it in the service of others and in themselves and in the world. And as a person who prays, you're automatically dwelling in possibility, looking at the world of effects and saying, that's not all there is. There's so much more than that. And I am going to do the work to live in that space, to bring that forward, to allow that to reveal itself. So practitioners are humble, praying dwellers in possibility. And so she challenged us to think about, what are we praying on? What are we spending our time on? And offered a little research. You know, the number one thing in research, not just for science of mind, obviously, but people who pray, when they're asked, what do you pray for? The number one thing, safe travel. Now, I'm down with that, because I travel almost every week, right? I feel free. I accept safe travel. Pray it up. And she went through the list, and of course, that health was a big part, and safety of loved ones, and way down on the list, world peace. What might be possible for us if each of us took on our own capacity to influence the world in which we live in. Not by getting out and doing, as I had a practitioner say, pushing the density, but through our own inner knowing. Now again, healthy inner critic. I don't know about you, but every now and then I have to do what I've heard my brother refer to as feed the beast, which is in order to keep it happy and not causing trouble in your life, you have to feed it so it doesn't come out like looking for food and causing trouble. So in my own feeding of my healthy inner critic when it comes to this realm of spiritual healing, I love the new research that is happening in the medical professions, where the medical science now is starting to catch up to what spiritual healers have known for millennia, which is that basically, fundamentally, it's all in your head. And I don't mean that dismissively. And again, if you believe the pill will help you, take the pill, get the treatment when you need it, absolutely. And our thoughts and what's going on in our brain have such an extraordinary impact on our capacity for heal. It was not that long ago when you went in for cancer treatment. I heard Marianne Williams tell this story once where her sister, she had recommended to her sister 20, 30 years ago, her sister was dealing with cancer, about having a support group. And the sister went to the doctor and said, well, my sister was saying to me, you know, maybe I should consider getting into a support group or some sort of a spiritual community. Do you know of such a thing? And the doctor said, is your sister a licensed physician? And completely dismissed the idea. Well, now you go to any notable, reputable cancer treatment center. They have massive programs around support because the power of community, the power of positive thinking, the power of prayer, the power of it has so revealed itself in the evidence of people getting healthy who weren't. And the people who didn't exercise those things, who were not a part of those groups, didn't heal at the same rate. Medical, pharmaceutical companies studying the efficacy of drugs, they do blinded trials, right? They want to make sure the drug is actually working, right? And then they would complain about the placebo effect. Because like 50% of the people got better, and they didn't even take the drug. Well, now what's happening is there are scientists, medical professionals going, wait a minute, that thing you're calling just the placebo effect? That's a really effective drug. How do we tap into that? And what we're beginning to learn in the physiology of our own bodies is that the reason, for example, that morphine worked for me is because we have receptors in our brains that essentially say yes to whatever that chemical concoction is, and in fact can generate it within our own bodies. Like we've got this whole pharmacy in our brain. How do we turn it on? There are some of us who might say spiritual mind treatment turns on that pharmacy by aligning our understanding and our thoughts with an infinite spiritual principle that already exists and allowing it to reveal itself. Now again, this can be really challenging ground, or it can just be like, yes, I get it. And when we go in to start practicing it, the yes that you feel at the beginning, like I remember the first time hearing these ideas, I was like, absolutely that's true. I so understand that. And then I started to practice it. It was like, God, this is hard. I can't make this work, right? Because I was trying to make it work. So I want to share another story that I thought was so powerful of this idea, which is there was a hypnotist, and this is in the medical literature at the National Institutes of Health. You can look it up. It's amazing. I love that this stuff is being studied. A hypnotist who was working with a young man who had a physical condition on his body of where his skin had formed very hard and tough surfaces, like it seemed like a really severe case of warts, only covering like almost his whole body. And so none of the traditional treatments had worked, nothing was working that he was doing, so he went to a hypnotist for help. And using the power of the mind, this hypnotist was working with him, And they started by focusing on a single body part. So like they started with the left arm because the hypnotist himself wanted to be collecting the evidence that it was indeed the work they were doing that was working. And lo and behold, within weeks, the left arm clears up. The skin condition resolves. So they move to another part of his body, to his leg, and they keep moving through the body and moving through the body. And they're having tremendous success. And the hypnotist starts to communicate this, and he finds out that it indeed was not a severe case of warts. It actually was an incurable skin condition that has a very long scientific name that I'm not going to attempt to pronounce today. And once he knew that, his treatment quit being effective. His own belief of this thing being incurable blocked the work he'd been doing. The power of belief, the power of our own minds to understand it. And I myself am constantly challenged by this beautiful power of belief, this beautiful power of inquiry, this beautiful, like, what is that thing that's going on over there? And just a couple of years ago, I had the experience at an Agape Revelation conference where they had a woman there who was a noted energy healer, an energy worker. And she was presenting to the, hundreds of people in the ballroom, and I had been busy being in service in another capacity and had come a little bit late into the presentation, so it was sort of in the back of the room, very sparse, empty seats between me and the other friends and practitioners around me. And she's talking about chakras in an area that I have not done a lot of study in, and my inner critic is going, okay, here we go. Right? And so, and at the same time, the inner critic was being balanced and saying, now, I'm at an Agape Revelation conference. I trust Reverend Michael Beckwith. I know that he's not bringing in some charlatan who's going to be talking about stuff that is just manipulative, elementary, doesn't really work kind of crap. At the same time, my inner critic is like, man, this woman sounds like elementary. Right? So she's doing the work with, and people are coming up and she's doing work with them, and she's clearing the chakras. And my inner critic is going, we really do have work to do elsewhere, and she's calling up her assistants to stand behind the people and hold the space for them, and she's doing all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, but I trust Reverend Michael Beckwith. I'm in a community, and I'm an enormous believer in the power of the mind, so if these people believe what she's doing is working for them, it's working for them. I can ride along with that. So she starts to teach us, just demonstrating to us how you can use a pendulum to identify the chakras in the body, and she has this thing hanging on a string. And a woman has come up as a volunteer, and she's demonstrating with her, and they get up to the heart chakra, and she's like, oh yeah, your heart chakra is really blocked because the thingy's not spinning, it's not moving. And she goes, well, that's okay, we can clear that. So she puts this aside, and she starts doing, oh, this isn't just a clearing, she says to us. Oh, this is an ascension wanting to come through. Inner critic, what? What are you talking about? Right? Okay, so we're hanging. And she had explained throughout the talk that there are different levels of vibration and different ways in which we move through, and the energy that exists is everywhere present and everywhere active all the time, and it comes forward in different ways when we're open to it. And in this case, we're sort of like, we are not alone. The ancestors are still energetically present. And this woman, she says, this woman, I can see that you have a guide who's with you. It's female. It seems to be a family member, but it's not your mother or grandmother. And the woman is smiling. And she's like, oh, I see you already know this. And the woman nods. Like, she's had an experience. Many of us have had inner experiences with just that sense that someone's with us and helping us out, right? And so she starts just doing the clearing work, and the woman is, you can see the woman becoming visibly lighter and just smiling, and clearly this is working for her. And she's doing her thing, and all this jazz, and then she goes, oh, they want me to share this energy with the room. And she goes, so I'm about 3/4 of the way back, right? And you could feel like, have you ever been in the desert and it's really still, and then a hot breeze just and goes on its way? And that was exactly what happened. And I'm in the room, and it was as if, I know I used this reference last time, but it was the Grinch, right? Here's the heart. My heart grew, my chest seemed to expand. My jaw fell open, and I was trying to breathe. People all over the room are crying. I'm sobbing. Cat trying to get, like, just out of nowhere, this extraordinary thing occurs. And you hear, even as you can hear, like, all the guys at the tech table in the back of the room, and you're like, ooh. Like, it went all the way. So my practitioner friend next to me, who's not having the same physical experience I am, his inner critic is a little more tame, I think. He's just chill. He's just like in the zone, loving this whole thing. Right? He just looks over and goes, "You okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm so okay. So okay." And my logical brain, my inner critic goes, "Something happened." And that was really all it could do with the information it had just received. Something happened. And what it brought to me, and the reason I share it today, was that really deep, profound awareness that there is no limit to what we do not yet intellectually understand. And so we have the opportunity, we have a choice. As people who have already said yes to a path of awareness, to a path of exploration, to a path of deepening our conscious awareness of our absolute divine nature, which you have said yes to, and I know this because you're in this room, we have the choice now of being the community who waits for the science to make evident the power of the mind, the power of this universal power and presence that we can access, that is everywhere present. Or being the ones they study. Because how did that person get here? Simply a choice. And as we're in that vibration now, I'd actually like to invite us into some spiritual treatment. Are you open to spiritual treatment today? Okay. So, as Reverend Brian would have us say, please join me in this affirmative prayer. And I want to anchor the power of your yes. Your yes to being open to this. And how grateful I am for the opportunity to be right here and right now in this yes energy, in this open expansiveness of that which the intellectual mind may not be able to describe or understand or clearly articulate, and yet is so real, is so clear, is so ever present and ever powerful, that one mind, that one power, that one presence that is everywhere present, that is everywhere active, that is at this very moment being itself as all that there is, from the farthest star to the very cells of our bodies and all the spaces in between. One life, one power, one presence. That power and presence that so loved itself that it manifests as all that there is for the sheer joy of knowing itself more fully. That power and presence that manifests itself as me for that very same joy. That manifests itself as each person here, each person listening to my voice. Individualized expression of divine life. And so I know that that one power, that one presence, that infinite allness of life lives itself as me. It breathes itself as me. It moves itself as me. It speaks this word in, as, and through me on behalf of every individual here this day, every individual within the sound of my voice, knowing that right where they are, The divine wholeness of life is expressing itself. Right where they are, infinite wholeness is revealing itself. Right where they are, whatever may be the appearance of lack, of limitation, of illness, is simply an appearance. That indeed the truth of who they are is an unstoppable, unblockable, infinite life that is expanding in every moment, in awareness, in love, in peace, in wholeness, in beauty, in power, in presence. That exactly where they are, the infinite abundance of the allness of life itself is fully present. I accept it, receive it fully on their behalf. I know that right where each person is, there is physical wholeness, that there is the appearance of illness is dissolved by the power of this word, that this word indeed has power, that it is unblockable, it is unstoppable, and there is no human action, there is no human condition, there is no human thought that can block it from revealing itself in and as and through their life. I know that for each person here, divine right order is revealing itself, that exactly what is wanted and needed for them to do, exactly what is wanted and needed for them to learn, exactly what is wanted and needed for them to experience is happening in their life now for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is the revelation of their highest good, the upliftment of themselves and their families, the upliftment of themselves, their families, and their community, the upliftment of themselves, their family, their community, their country, their world. That what is happening right here, in this room right now, is an absolute alignment with infinite truth. That God is, that love is, that peace is, that compassion is. And I call it forth. I call it forth and accept it fully on each person's behalf, knowing that within them, as them, through them, is a divine, infinite being with the capacity to transform any appearance into the alignment with infinite truth, that only the highest good may reveal itself. And with this word, I bless every member of this community who is not physically present here this day. I know that they are enveloped, they are held, they are loved in the power of this word. I especially bless Reverend Brian and Kim right where they are, for love is indeed expanding as them and expressing as them. What a privilege it is to witness God as them. God is each person here in the divine and unique and perfect way that expresses. In the power of this word, I envelop and embrace all of those who've made their transition, whether long ago or most recently, that right where they are held, they are loved as they adapt to the new expression of themselves on the other side of the veil. How grateful I am for the opportunity to know this truth, to speak this word, to bless even those who are yet to be, yet to come into form, for I know that they come in at an even higher level of vibration because we have established it. We have established it. It is the truth of who we are. So grateful for the power of this word, for this infinite knowingness, for this astounding community of God itself that reflects the beauty and power of who they are. So exquisitely. So grateful to release this word into the law of action, which has already received it, already made it so, is already celebrating its completion, for it is indeed already done. I have named it, I have claimed it, and I simply allow it to be. And it cannot help but be, for that is the truth of what it is. And so it is. Amen.